I love Magic the Gathering. I especially love Commander. What a fun format indeed. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, I love making custom commanders. Not necessarily making new rules, but getting old commanders that have been printed by Wizards of the Coast and flavoring them with other IP properties. Even though we're getting sets like Marvel Superheroes, Spider-Man and all that, I still think there is plenty of real estate to adapt some of my other favorite properties into Magic the Gathering. Ones we're very unlikely to ever see. And one that I think actually fits perfectly in with Magic the Gathering's themes is one of my favorite video game series, The Legend of Zelda. I frockin' love Legend of Zelda. Skyward Sword is my favorite video game. No matter how much some people dislike the motion controls, love it, love it, love it. It brought life to my childhood. Now, if you have watched some of my other custom commander videos, what I would actually tend to do is make a whole deck around one character. I've done Ben 10, I've done Finn and Jake. But if I'm being quite honest, building a deck isn't what I enjoy the most. It's simply reflavoring the cards. The deck kind of felt like I had to do it as like a filler work. This time around, I'm just designing the commanders and then giving some inspiration for what you can make of the decks. There are tons of decks online that you can just now copy and paste them, add them to this one, or even make your own ones. But these are just commanders that I think fit these characters very well. So I have 4 commanders that I think represent some of the Legend of Zelda goodness amazingly. So let's go through some of the links and see what I came up with. Starting with what is probably the most famous Link, Ocarina of Time Link. Ironically, there's actually 2 Links in Ocarina of Time. You have Young Link and Adult Link. So I was struggling to pick which one I wanted to work with. So I thought, why not both? That's right, I'm pulling out Partner, but actually not Partner. I'm pulling out Doctor's Companion. That's right, I'm actually reaching into the Doctor Who set. I don't know much about Doctor Who, but I do have a lot of friends that I play with that love Doctor Who, and these 2 cards inspired me specifically. So we are stealing the War Doctor and Clara Oswald, and they are both fittingly going to be representing Link, Hero of the Past, and Link, Hero of the Future. So let's start with Link, Hero of the Past, who is reskinning Clara Oswald for us. Link, Hero of the Past, is 6 colorless mana, a legendary creature, human advisor. The ability is called Impossible Girl, and I just thought it was funny, so I left it there. If Link, Hero of the Past, is your commander, choose a color before the game begins. Link, Hero of Past, is the chosen color. If a triggered ability of a doctor you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. Doctor's Companion. You can have 2 commanders if the other is a doctor. And with 2 power and 6 toughness. This is a really interesting card to iterate in because it means this deck can be incredibly flexible, having the ability to either stick with a 2-color pair from the War Doctor or introduce a whole new color is an awesome idea I really love. Not to mention that ability to re-trigger the ability of any other doctors we have can mean that young Link here can get us into some serious trouble. And that's the goal with Link, Hero of the Future, who is reskinning the War Doctor. For 2 colorless, a red and a white mana, we have ourselves a legendary creature, Time Lord Doctor, who is a 3/5. Link, Hero of Future, has the ability whenever 1 or more other permanents phase out, and whenever 1 or more other cards are put into exile from anywhere, put a time counter on Link, Hero of Future. Whenever Link, Hero of Future attacks, it deals damage equal to the number of time counters on it to any target. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. I could not resist the idea of manipulating time and using that time against people. It is so fitting. The game's called Ocarina of Time. You travel through time. It is perfect. So while if you're looking to make this deck, you're probably looking at a lot of Doctor Who cards, there are still some great cards that use exile that can help boost our Link's power. Rest in Peace is going to be an awesome enchantment to play here. Even Lelia the Blade Reforged. You could do a lot here depending with how you wanted to play it. Playing from exile, doing things like Cascade could be absolutely amazing to make Link, Hero of Future go absolutely insane. Not to mention having young Link on the board means it's going to be even more potent. I don't know much about Doctor Who, but out of all the cards, the War Doctor was the one that was the most interesting to me. I love this pair here. I actually found it a great way for someone who doesn't know much about Doctor Who to get interested in the idea of the set. So I'm looking forward to building a whole deck based around those 2 creatures. Let's move on away from time and let us look to the sky. Oh, that was actually kind of crazy. Let's move on to Skyward Sword, my favorite game, and probably the simplest commander out of all the ones that we've chosen today. For Skyward Sword, I chose to reskin Akim, the Soaring Wind, to Link, Hero of the Sky. For 2 colorless, a blue, red, and white mana, we get ourselves a legendary creature, Bird Dinosaur, who has a PT of 3/4. Link, Hero of the Sky, has flying, and whenever you create 1 or more tokens for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. And for 3 colorless, a blue, red, and white, creature tokens you control gain double strike until end of turn. Most ways you look at it, this deck is going to be a token deck focused on flying. I don't run a lot of token decks. I had a crack at making a Rin and Seri deck way back when. I really enjoyed the idea, but I don't think I made it the best way. So I'd be really interested in making a flying bird deck here, and maybe even making some Loftwind tokens replacing those birds. Not to mention the watercolor art style from Skyward Sword. I just love so much. But this one's pretty straightforward. We're kind of just going with bird tribal for this one. Cards like Empyrean Eagle are going to be very beneficial. Even Kestrel the Wind-Crested could help if you lean into the focus of making bird tokens. But even then, you don't necessarily need to focus on only birds. You can do any kind of token deck with this commander. I myself will probably focus on a bird token deck just because I couldn't help making a Loftwing deck. I think that'd be so much fun. But overall, Skyward Sword Link is pretty simple, a pretty easy commander to get on the field and wreak some havoc with. Our next custom commander, we're looking at Twilight Princess. I think this was technically the second Zelda game I ever played, and man, I loved how dark and gritty this game was. So I wanted a commander that was also pretty dark and gritty. Ironically, there was a commander I was gonna make a deck with for the longest time, but I kept putting it off. But I thought this was the perfect commander to reskin Twilight Princess Link. A whoosh! That's right, from the Final Fantasy set, I've been looking at Vincent Valentine as a commander, who has a handy transform ability which will work perfectly for the flavor of Twilight Princess Link. So let's have a look at Link, Hero of Twilight. For 2 colorless and 2 black mana, we get ourselves a 2/2 legendary creature, Assassin. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a number of +1/+1 counters on Link, Hero of Twilight, equal to that creature's power. And whenever Link, Hero of Twilight, attacks, you may transform it. So if you can't get the idea just from reading that, we are going to be Evel Knievel. We want to be murdering our opponent's creatures all the time to make Link as strong as possible. And when we feel the time is right, we go on the attack and we transform into Wolf Link, Beast of Twilight. A 3/2 legendary creature, Werewolf Beast, who has trample and lifelink, as well as when Wolflink Beast of Twilight dies, return to the battlefield tapped front face up. I've been playing a lot of black decks lately, and I've got to say, it's card text like this that makes me love them. Just aggressive and conniving and evil. We use Link, Hero of Twilight, we start murdering the board, we get as strong as possible, we go in, we attack, we get trample, we get lifelink. Not to mention, if someone does take Wolf Link out, we can return it back to Link, start it all over again. Now, when looking at cards that would pair really nicely with Twilight Princess Link, I couldn't help but look at some of the classics. Massacre Worm, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, or even Zodiac Umbral God. I didn't know much about this card, but when I was reading it, oh my gosh, this is literally perfect. The Twilight Princess Link is gonna play really Evel Knievel. Not many people at the table are gonna be happy with you, but you're gonna have the time of your life. For our final commander, we're looking at Majora's Mask. Now, this one is the one that I'm going to be making the deck of first. I think this is such a cool commander, and I didn't even know it existed until I was going through all the card database to find a perfect match for Majora's Mask Link. Have a look at this crazy cat. We are looking at Kimahri, Valiant Guardian, also from Final Fantasy, who has gone ahead and become Link Masked Hero. For 2 colorless, a green and a blue, we get a 3/3 legendary creature, Cat Warrior, who has vigilance, something called Ronso Rage, that at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1 counter on Link Masked Hero and tap target creature an opponent controls. Then you may have Link Masked Hero become a copy of that creature, except its name is Linked Masked Hero and it has vigilance and this ability. Oh my gosh, I could not think of a more fun idea for this. The flavor idea of going on the attack, tapping a target creature, and making a mask of that creature for our hero to wear and transform into. Oh my god, I love this so much. and it's Simic, one of my favorite coloring pairs. There are so many ways you could make this deck, but I cannot help but thinking of making a huge counter deck with a bunch of shapeshifters, cards that are going to give us a ton of counters. But what I truly love about this is depending on what your opponents are playing, this deck can play really differently each time. If your opponent is playing dinosaurs, so are you. I just think this is such a cool idea. Originally, I was actually looking at Chameleon, Master of Disguise, who is a Spider-Man commander who I had never seen. Really like the idea of this, you know, entering as a copy of a creature. But no, I could not think of a better commander than Kimahri. I think creatures like Sakashima of 1,000 Faces is an amazing idea to also have in this deck, as well as Vile Duplication. I think it'd be an insane idea just to get as many copies of our commander out as possible and just stealing creatures from our opponents. Such a fun idea. I am definitely making this deck first. And that is it for our Legend of Zelda commanders. A little bit of a different spin on our normal custom commander format, but it's a lot easier on me, and I think it invokes a little bit more creativity from you, the viewer, who gets to make your own spin on these decks, and maybe you have some other suggestions for commanders as well. And some of my other custom commander videos, you guys have been amazing at telling me what decks you've been doing and putting your own spins on them. Please do not stop doing that. There is no definitive correct answer for what is the best custom commander. It's truly just what you enjoy. So keep on playing Magic. Keep on being creative. If you want to grab these proxies I've made, they'll be in our Discord. I'll see you next time.